Okay, so what you see in the vise is a size 18 JUJUBEE. Charlie Craven created this pattern for a Batis imitation. And it can look a little intimidating to tie, but I think I've got a few techniques that might help you out, especially if you're not used to tying midges of this nature. So what we're using here is it's all thread, and it's all of this supreme hair or unique hair. Whoop, dropped that one. But it's actually not too bad. I'm going to show you how to tie it using longer strands than normal, and hopefully I've had to increase the well, I've had to zoom in as much as possible, I should say, on how to tie it. So hopefully I can get all the hand techniques in there. So this is size 18, lightning strike SE1, size 18. You can use whatever you want. These are typically tied between 18 and 26. I know 26 small. So I'm getting that this hook loaded up. I'm going to be using, and I'll show you in a second, sheer thread, 14/0, and I'm going to be using two colors. I'm going to be using the 14/0 black and the 14/0 white, and I'll explain why. If you had to pick between one or the other, you want the white, because the white you can color with a marker. So without further ado, let's get started. So on this, the way that I'm tying it, it's sort of imperative that we start at the third point. So you can, this is the third point, or the third way through the fly. So all this up front is going to be our thorax. So I'm just going to do one wrap over the front, and I'm going to come back about 3 turns, and I'm going to come back forward to where I started. And this should allow you to trim out your tag. So your jam knot should be complete at this point. Next, what I want to do is I'm going to grab 2 strands of the green, and you can if you wanted to tone the fly down, I'm using a bright green. But if you wanted to tone the fly down, you could use, an olive is kind of typically what it's tied in. You can go several different routes. If you're tying bigger, if you're tying on a 16 or a 14, what you can do is grab, say 4. If you're going to tie on a 16, I'd say grab 4 of the greens. And grab, or if you're tying on a 4, I'm sorry, let me say that again. If you're tying on a 16, grab 4 of the greens. If you're tying on a 14, grab 5 of the greens and use black thread. Maybe I should have said that up front. But if you're tying on an 18 or smaller, what we're going to do is we're going to grab 2 strands, and that's it. We're going to get 2 strands of fiber. Sorry, I'm a little cold. It's 45 degrees in my garage and dropping like a rock. So I'm all bundled up. My fingers aren't working very well. So we're going to grab these 2 strands, and we're going to kind of just set them aside. I'm just leaning them over the back of my vise. And next, what we're going to use for the rib, is 1 strand of the black. Now, if you're tying on if you're going to try to tie these on a larger size, don't grab the black. Just get the extra green and use black thread. We'll use the black thread for the rib, and I'll kind of walk you through that, hopefully somewhat efficiently. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these 3 strands, I'm going to put them together. I want to get the tips lined up about even. It's increasingly hard with numb fingers and whatever. If I can do this with numb fingers, you can do it. I promise. Okay, so we've got something that looks about like this. What I want to do is I want to try to get that black strand to face me, and I want to slide. And the easy way to tie this on is just take it underneath the thread and keep the black strand toward you or on top so that you can easily move it, and just slide it up under the thread and set it on top of the hook. Now we're just going to place one thread wrap over going towards the back. Excuse me. And I'm going to collect everything up front. I'm going to, just to save material, I'm going to slide it in a little ways. And the tips don't have to be even. I'm going to put another 1 or 2 thread wraps in just to make sure I kind of have it. I'm going to lift everything up right here and trim off. If you're afraid that it's going to pull out of your thread, or if you're doing this and it's continuously pulling out of your thread, don't be afraid to add just a half a drop of glue right there and give it 30 seconds to set. So now what I want to do is I want to, or at least the way I like to do it, I should say, is I like to try to get this black thread on the front side. So when I kind of pull them together like this, my black one's on the front side, and I'll pull it towards me and start to tie in a little bit more, and then I can kind of lift it up towards the back. You can kind of see how the black is the leading edge there. And I'm going to take my thread and use this material to help slide it into place. A lot of the times you can come up like this. If you need to come up higher, you can. I just kind of keep it down a little bit on this. And I'm going to come in all the way until my thread is just about to this point here at the back of the bend, or the inside part of the back of the bend. And depending on how you want to taper it, you can jump your thread forward, like way forward like this. Or if you want to have a little more beef to your fly, you can wrap forward. That's going to be entirely up to you and whatnot. So now that I'm up to the front, I'm going to clip these off in my little clip in the back here, just so they're out of the way. So now we're up here, and this is where we started. You can kind of see this little lump, and that's fine. Don't worry about that. So at this point, you have two choices. And again, this is the way I like to tie it. You can either take a black marker. I got a black Sharpie here, and I can pull some thread out, and I can color this thread. And I'll just do it for fun. But you can just take the broad side of it. You don't even have to get the tip or anything. You can just color it like that. You want to go out a ways, because from this point forward is where the thorax is going to be, and we want this portion to be black. Or if you want to kind of challenge yourself, I'm going to wrap my thread forward just a little bit behind the eye, about a bodkin width or half bodkin width. Now I'm going to switch over to my black thread. I'm going to start a new jam knot right behind there with about 3 turns. And you can see my tag is sticking up here. I'm just going to, it started to twist. No, don't let it twist. Of course it twists. And now I'm going to grab my white thread. I'm going to lift it up, and with my left index, I'm going to pinch the two together and wrap over those thread wraps to my original lump. You can kind of see that there. So this original lump is actually kind of a measuring point. Now I can come in with my scissors and trim that out, and now my white thread's gone. I'm onto my black thread. Now you may be asking yourself, why are we switching colors? It's actually pretty simple. So with the green that we're using, it's kind of a fluorescent green, a bright green. It's I think it was actually mismarked, but anyway, we want the lighter color threads so that the hue, using a paint term there, but the hue of the unique hair or supreme hair is coming through, backed by white threads. So it's going to make it more vibrant. It's going to make it lighter. If you want to make, excuse me, if you want to make the fly a little duller, then just go ahead and use the black thread all the way through, and you'll be fine. But the reason we use the black thread here is because these little tiny guys, their thorax is black, or pretty close. And so this is kind of a Betas pattern. And so you can kind of see I just made a couple more wraps so that I'm up right close to where everything kind of bridges together. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my thread forward, and you can kind of spiral wrap it forward. And so now what I want to do is I want to take these fibers, and I want to get my leading edge to be the black color. Now the interesting thing about this is you'll see people say that you got to wrap one way or the other. It's just simply not true. I like to make sure that the black color is the leading edge. The leading edge means going forward, just like that. So I don't know if you can kind of see the green hue behind that black wrap, but I want the black to be up front. As you're wrapping this hair, you want your fingers in close, and you're going to change positions frequently. You want this material as tight as possible as you're doing this. And even though I'm stuck on my hook point there, I'm going to lift up and around. You can see I'm drawing that material toward me there. And I'm going to move it around. And we're going to do this all the way up front, or all the way until we get up front. So I'm going to stop right here. If you're on a bigger hook and you need to use black thread and you've got your 4 or 5 wraps, what you're going to do to get that ribbing effect is you're going to spiral wrap. You're going to open spiral wrap this forward, leaving a little tiny gap for the black thread to show through. And that's going to give you your black rib. Now there'll be a little bit of size and difference for the body, and this would be a great place to put some UV resin to tighten all that up. So I'm just going to slowly take it forward. I'm going to try to get 5 or maybe 6 wraps in here, and whatever you get up to this black point here, or I say the black point, but the thorax area is what you want. So if your thread's starting to, or if your material's starting to split out like that, you can just kind of come in and take your bodkin and tap it together and pull it forward until it tightens back up. As I come forward, I'm going to just cross this over until it goes well in to my thorax. Now, the reason I brought my thread forward is so I can back off a turn. I can bring this material up and over a full turn so that it lines up with my thread, or just on the front side. I'm going to reach behind, grab my thread. I'm going to place a couple of wraps in, and don't let go yet because you could lose it. I'm going to try to lay this across the very top of the fly, angled towards the back. Now I'm going to just gently wrap back, trying to make sure that this material is staying on top. So what we have here, I'm trying to find my clean bodkin. So what we have here is, now you have your thorax here, and you've got your abdomen here. And to cut this material out, I mean, it's, once you've reversed the material and put 2 or 3 wraps in, you're clear. I like to try to keep it on top if I can. I'm off to the side just a little bit on this one. Don't worry about it too much. But at this point, I want to trim this off. And I'll turn the fly to the side so you can kind of see, you'll see a little bit of stuff sticking out there. Very, very small. And I'm going to take my thread and just continue to wrap back to tie that down. Like so. Don't go past where you originally started. The thorax of the bug is going to be bigger than the rest of the bug, right? You can kind of picture a human being, like the torso is bigger than the legs, right? So that's exactly what this is. This is kind of the torso of the bug, if you will. Next, what I want to do is I want to go to my white supreme hair, or unique hair, or anything similar. And by the way, you can actually use bucktail to do these. It's just a little more fragile. So what I want to do is I want to get an even number of these white strands. On size 18, I'm going to go with 6. If you're going to go with the 16 and 14, maybe you go, 8 or 10, but you want an even number. Because this is not only going to be our wing case, it's also going to be our legs. Okay, and I think I have 6 there. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep. All right. So now that I have 6, I'm just going to cut these out. And the easy way to tie this in again is to just have a decent amount sticking out front. I'm going to run this underneath my thread. I know I tie goofy footed, so I tie this to my side. If you're tying it to your side, you're going to come underneath the thread like this and pull up and over. You'll figure it out. But you want your thread lined up with the back. So I'm gonna lift this up. I'm gonna put it right on top, and I'm gonna place one thread wrap over, moving towards the front, so that I can have that material sticking out something like this. Now you can really you can kind of do what you want here as far as gauging the size. What I like to do is I like to actually put one more thread wrap in. Let me rephrase this. You can actually pinch this together and pull it through if you have even cut tips. Something like that, where they're all at the same length. And you can pull it through until it sneaks under your thread. What I like to do is I like to put one more wrap into the front. I'm going to lift this up, straight up, and I'm going to come in with my scissors and trim that out. And then what that does is, if you can see that, is that's going to line that material up right behind the head. You just want to make sure that your material is sitting directly on top so that it's in line with your hook shank right here. Now I'm going to make a few more consecutive wraps going forward until I get behind the hook eye. This little white dot that you see out front, it's not a big deal whatsoever. Okay, this part's somewhat tricky because you don't want to pull hard. Okay, if you have a tendency of pulling hard, this would be another good spot to add a drop of glue and let it fully set up. Maybe take a minute or two to let it fully set up. So what I want to do is I want to take my fingers and start to kind of massage this material until I can get it to be, I'm going to try to turn my vise to the side to do this, and hopefully it doesn't pull out, but until I can get it to be somewhat flat like this, if you can kind of see that. And I'm going to lay this down. Don't turn your vise to the side. I'm just doing this to show you. But have your material lay flat like this, and that's going to be the wing case. Okay. Once you have your wing case, hold on. I'm gonna have to do it in the upright position here. I'm not used to doing it on the side. And kind of draw it forward. Once I have my wing case in the upright position where I want it, I'm going to take one wrap over and I'm going to lift up on my unique hair or material. Oh, I missed that one. I'm going to lift up until it sits right behind the eye of the hook. I'm going to change hands. I'm going to place one wrap right between the back of the eye and the material so that my thread is right behind the eye, and I'm going to pull down. gently pull down, and that's going to lock that material into place, and there's your wing case. Now I can place another wrap going towards the back. The thread placement here is actually really important. So now this material is locked in. You can see I'm pulling on it, I'm letting go, so on and so forth. But I've got my little wing case in there. So next what I want to do is I want to actually come through and separate these fibers. I want an even amount on each side. That's why we need an even amount to start with. Now I've got 3 on this side. I've got 6 total. So I'm going to take 3 to my aft and 3 to my front, and I'm going to bring it around to the side like so. I'm going to see if I can do this on camera. It's going to be really tough. And I'm going to do the same thing on this side. I'm going to collect everything. I'm trying to show you. I'm going to collect everything in my left thumb, left index. Obviously, if you're a lefty, do it the opposite way until I can pull all that material to the back. Now, all I need to do is just make a few loose thread wraps over the front. That's going to build the front of the head. Excuse me. And now I'm going to place a few more in a little tighter. So I've got, I don't know, somewhere between 6 and 10 thread wraps of some very fine thread holding all that in place. And we want this to be sprawled out on the side. So if you have a rotating vise or a rotary function, you can turn it to the side, and you want to have something that kind of looks like that. And to tell you the truth, that's really about the end of the fly. There's no hidden gimmicks here or anything. You know, if you're using a larger size hook and you want to use the black thread, that's great. If you're using this size hook and you don't want to cross your thread over, just make sure you color it, and I mean you're good to go. It's a relatively simple fly. So in order to seal this guy up, the best way to do it is through a wet whip. As I knocked my super glue over, that was pretty sweet. But all we're going to do is I'm going to take my brush super glue and I'm going to coat about 3/4 of an inch of my thread. And that extra big dot is too much. Don't let that do that to you. Little beads like that are what you want. So don't be afraid to take your brush back to it, or your bodkin, or whatever you're using. Now you got to kind of be careful here. So what I've got here is a mini whip finisher. Let me lift this up so my glue doesn't keep winding down. So when I say mini, you can kind of see it's not horribly smaller than the larger one. They've actually got ones bigger than this, but I like the little mini whip finisher here. It just kind of helps me negotiate and navigate inside these tight spaces. So I'm going to do the wet whip, and I'm just going to put about 3, maybe 4 turns at the most, and pull through. Now the way I like to do this here is I've kind of collected all that thread in my fingers. You can choke up on your bobbin or however you like to do it, and I'm going to just pinch and push up top of the head, and I'm just going to pop that thread off. It's frayed a little bit on this one. It's probably just because I was going slow. It's not a big deal. Clean it up a little bit. If you've got some extra hairs that are left over that you can't seem to get rid of, you know, honestly, as long as you can get to your eye, don't worry about it. You know, these little bugs have all kinds of little hairs and fibers and this and that and the other coming off of them. So at this point, what you want to do while that glue's setting is you want to make sure that you're kind of glue free as much as possible. You want to stretch these out, move them around. And what this is going to do is it's going to allow these, because this is our legs out to both sides. And all that's going to do is just kind of break up that glue and help keep these from being glued together. Sometimes you can't help it, it just happens. So again, if that happens, don't worry about it. Now to get the length of the legs, this is actually a pretty simple deal. We're just going to collect all of the fibers, all 6 of them in this case, and I'm going to pinch them. I'm going to pull them tight, and I'm going to cut them off just a tad behind the wing case. So if you can see this last rib, that's kind of where I'm going to line my scissors up, and just cut right there. And that's it. You just got your legs in using this big old long material. I think there's kind of a misnomer that you have to have like some super big magnifying glasses and all kinds of stuff to make these little itty bitty guys, and it's just not the case. Actually, the bigger and longer materials you have, the easier it is to make these things. And so that's pretty much it. So off these, one thing I'd kind of add real quick is off these normal strands of the unique hair or supreme hair. These things run, I don't know, they're about 8 inches long, 10 inches long. And so when you're pulling these guys off, make sure you set them somewhere where you can find them again. Very little of this material is going to go a hell of a long way. And, I can probably get minimum 6 flies off this 10 inches. So you need very little material. It's a horribly effective pattern. It's a Charlie Craven pattern. I think Umpqua bought the pattern actually. So, but anyway, that's kind of how I tie it. And that's it. You can see this little hair dangling out there. I did. Well, you can kind of play around with it if you got little strands. If you got little strands and you can't get them, again, don't worry about it. It's really not all that big a deal on these little guys. It may just add some flavor and give you the tad bit of extra movement that you need to like land something. So anyway, so that's it. That's the JUJUBEE. You can make this flashback if you want. You just want to use some extra small, like pearl flash or something like that, and you tie it in just with the wing case and everything else, as you would there. So anyway, that's it. If you liked the video, always appreciate if you give me a thumbs up and subscribe if you found it helpful. Hopefully I can get some more stuff to you that you'll find helpful and beneficial. Also, if you're not a member of over at Fly Tying for Beginners over on Facebook, this video is one of the videos we do for the classes. And that hair is messing with me. I keep seeing it on the video. I can't see it in real life, but I can see it on the video. I'm not gonna get. Other than that, if you have any questions, you can send me a message on YouTube. And I hope you found it helpful. So other than that, everybody, happy tying. Tie a little of these, tie a few of these small ones up. It doesn't have to be as hard as you think. You don't need all the extra stuff that you think you might. So you guys take care. We'll see you next time.